Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dirty Gaming and a video covering off my favourite Atlas strategy for 322 League. This video is going to go over all the information you need to know about the Atlas strat and how to make sure you're getting maximum returns when trying out the strategy. This strategy is a wandering path boss rushing strategy. So before we jump into the Atlas tree and the pros and cons of the strategy, let's just give a very quick overview of the strategy. And it is essentially a boss rushing strategy using wandering path. Your only goal is to get to the boss as quickly as possible, kill it, loot whatever it drops, get out, put another map in and rerun. The way you make money from this strategy is being quick. You don't need an amazingly quick character, you just need something with a good movement skill or decent movement speed, and you need to be able to kill bosses in a few seconds. You don't need a ton of DPS because it is just normal map bosses that you're killing, but with this strategy you're going to be dropping lots of loot that's liquidable, really easy to sell, and your map times are going to be super quick. So let's jump into the Atlas tree and we'll just go over it. This in general is what you want your tree to look like. There's lots of things you can tweak, but the base of the tree needs to remain the same. So essentially, you're taking enough of these connected map nodes to get to 100%. So because this is a wandering path strategy, all your major notables, so these ones here, just do nothing, and then all of your small ones are doubled. So these are normally 2% for a monster to drop a connected map. It goes up to 4%. Use PoE Planner with the tree I've provided and it'll give you a good overview of what you need to do. You need to get your chance for one monster to drop a connected map to be 100%. There's no point going over that because it's still a 100% chance. You want to get your map duplication up as high as possible. You can get it to, I believe, 37%. And then you're also going to take all of these nodes here, which give 4% increase effect of modifiers on your maps. It makes the maps more difficult because you have 60% increase effect of modifiers. So if you have something like monster does 100% increased cold damage from fizz damage, it's going to be 160%. So don't stack up too many damaging mods, but you are flying through the map really quickly. So really you just want to run any maps that you can. And then we just take a few more nodes to get some increased quantity. The only other nodes that really matter are the increased chance for bosses to drop a Maven's invitation, which are these small nodes here. Once you take them all, you get a 96% increased chance. Then you've got some spare points. So what I recommend for the strategy as an all-rounder, just to make it nice and quick, is to take all of the small shrine nodes, which are down here, in the middle here, and then up here. And this gives you a 100% chance for a shrine to spawn in your map. You don't have to take that. If your build is adequate anyway, you can just drop those nodes and add something else in. I'd also recommend taking these Kirak mission nodes on completion. If you take them all, you get a decent chunk of chance for Kirak to give you a mission when you complete your map. So you can see it's 14% plus whatever the base chance is. So you are going to rack up tons and tons of missions. I'm sitting on hundreds of missions that I haven't used. But if you wanted to, you can just burn through them to see if you can get Cortex's boss maps. Keep checking his inventory every time you burn through a map. And that's kind of it. There are no lead mechanics at all. They are all going to show up because you can't block them because these count as major nodes. So just ignore everything. Go through your map, collect any maps that drop from monsters along the way, proc the Syrian Exile influence, and then kill the boss. In terms of materials, you don't need anything. We're not taking anything on the map device. We're not using any scarabs, sextants, anything like that. You're just alching and going your maps. You're not chiseling them. You're just alching the map, putting it in and going. And then basically pick the altar of your choice. It doesn't really matter what one you run. You can run Eater or Exile. Whatever invitation you want to drop at the end, that's the one that you would run. Because we're not interacting with altars at all. We're just running through the map, waiting for the influence to proc. So when you get your first pack of monsters to spawn, then you kill the boss, then you get out, and then you repeat. So let's talk about how to set up your tabs and your favorite system. So what you're going to do is you're going to ping pong between Dunes and Mesa. So if we go over to your favorites, the way you want to set them up depends on what map you're running. The idea is you run them in bulk. So you run all of your Dunes until you run out. Then you go and you run all of your Mesas. If you're running Dunes, you want to favorite every map as Mesa other than one, which is Dunes. The reason we're doing this is you get a 100% chance to drop a connected map. If we're running Dunes, we obviously really heavily favor that connected map being Mesa. And pretty much every map you're going to drop from these Dunes maps is going to be Mesa. If you're going to go and run Mesa, you do it the opposite. You do Dunes for all but one and then Mesa for the last one. And the reason we're doing that is it makes the strategy a bit easier to manage. So if we go into the stash tabs here, the maps I've got that I need to roll are Dunes. So I need to aim for Mesa to be my favorite map, which I've got set up here. You will find that pretty much the only map you get that drops will be your heavily favorited map. So once you've done that and you've got your stash tab set up, you have your dump tab to dump your loot. You'll have a maps collected tab where you will put in all of the messes that we're going to drop from running these dunes. And then the tab will end up looking like this. So this was what happened when I was running my messes. These are all the dunes that I've got. So first thing you need to do is roll all your maps quickly so that then you can basically just run all of these without any downtime. So the first thing you need to do is understand what mods your build cannot run. Don't do ones where that's a little bit awkward. Just mods your build cannot run. So to do this, I'd recommend going to PoE regex and then map modifiers. What this does is it allows you to select modifiers and it will paste in text of those modifiers. So basically any maps that you can run will be highlighted. Any that you can't won't be highlighted and you need to re-roll them. So for my build in particular, I can't run any sort of reflect. And although I can run cannot regen, I don't like to because it means I can't generate rage. So these are essentially the only 3 modifiers that I can't run. So you select all them modifiers, click copy, and then that copies the text into your clipboard. You can then go into your tab, paste it in, and any maps that are grayed out have those modifiers on it. So I'll need to re-roll them, but we're not quite at that stage yet. When you dump these maps, you're going to have some that are normal, some that are magic, some that are rare, and some that are unID'd. So the first thing you want to do is just type in unID into your search bar, and anything that highlights is going to be an unidentified map. So just get your scroll of wisdom, go through and identify all of these maps. So I've done unidentified. Next thing we want to do is look at any maps that need alking. So you go and type in normal and it will highlight any maps that you need to alk. Okay, now at that stage, we know that we don't have any normal maps in our dump tab, but we are going to have some magic maps. Now, the problem with magic is that there is also a magic tag on rare maps, which is more magic monsters. We don't really want to reroll over them. You can, if you want, just scour all of your maps that say magic, but you're going to end up with quite a lot of them. So all I do is just go through and just pull out the ones that are actually magic. Okay, then once we've got them prepared, we can get rid of that magic because you know exactly what we're rolling. So we're just going to scour all of these. Just go up and down, and then you can just type normal in here to make sure you haven't got any left. We have got 2 left, so again, we'll just scour these. So now I've got all our maps are normal, so again, we alk. And then just to make it easier for sorting, I'll then take these out and stick them back in. You don't have to, I'm a bit OCD, I don't like my stash tabs to be all over the place. So we're going to put these back in here. I did notice I've got one messer in there, but it is what it is. We can still run it. So now we've got all our maps in order. We know they're all rare. So all we need to do now is paste that regex in that we had. And it's going to, again, show us maps that we don't want to or can't run. Let's say the more mods that you build can't handle, the more maps you're going to have to re-roll. It's easier to pull them out because it's very hard once you scoured them to see where your maps were when you've got a big clutter like this. So now we have our maps that we cannot run. So we then scour all of these. So then you're going to alk them with the idea being, if they grey out, you need to re-roll it. And if they don't, we're good to go. So we'll just go and make sure we've got them all, which we have. So then we've just got these 3 that we need to re-roll. So we'll just move them so I can see them better. Scour and then alk. And now we're good to go. So now I'm just going to go normal just to make sure I've rolled all my maps, which I have. So again, I'm just going to pull all these out and stick them back in again, just so they're in a nice order. So that is how I'd recommend rolling your maps. So then you just take as many maps as you want, and then you start running them. So we'll just go and run a few maps as an example. We'll just do it for a couple of minutes while I talk over the top of it. And you might find that you run 9, 10, 11 maps in a row, and all that you get to drop is maps. But I started this strategy with 10 maps and I've got over 160 Dune maps. So eventually you're going to be making a ton of profit just from maps. Dunes and Mesa sell in bulk really, really quickly. So if you go through a map and you do it in 30 seconds and all you get is 2 Mesa map drops, that's actually a good return. You're getting 1/28th of your invitation, which is 1.2 divines, and you're getting a couple of maps worth 6 to 7 C each. So don't get disheartened. You will get invitations, boss maps. You will get some expensive div cards to drop. And with a bit of luck, you might get a Cortex or 2. So we'll go and we will just run our maps. I've already rolled them, so I know I can run them. Some are going to be pretty deadly. This one here, I might die with extra fizz, extra cold, and extra chaos. times by 1.6, but it doesn't really matter. Your character at this stage of the league should be in a position where that shouldn't really matter. If it does, you might want to be a bit more careful about rolling your maps. So with Dunes, we're just going to run straight up. Make sure our influence is procced, which it has. Get to the boss, take him down, and then we'll just portal back out again. So we've got absolutely nothing to drop that map, but it took about 20 seconds, and then you go straight back into another one. Do not go and dump in your tabs until you maybe got 3/4 of your inventory full, and there's a risk that you might maybe fill up if something like a 6-link drops that you want to pick up and vendor. Don't even bother checking altars. You may miss an altar for like some awakened sextants, but the time you take to check every altar is just not worth it. So again, as per expected in the showcase, absolutely nothing, but taking no time whatsoever, and it's another 2 onto our invitation. You will find in Dunes you drop more maps than when you run the messes, because overall you're going to be killing more enemies. I'm not even going to go back for 12 alterations. I don't think it's worth it. You can pick up scan reports if you want. I probably wouldn't. So again, we'll just run down to the boss. There's a messer map and another report. Another messer map. And another messer map. So 3 messer maps out down. We'll go and do one more on the hope that it is nice and drops me a boss map. And then what you can do when it's loading, if you really want to, is put your messer maps into this tab here. And then by the time your portals are up, you can go back in. So I can feel that this is the one where we drop a Elder Slayer's invitation. Or 6 portal scrolls. Anyway, that'll do for the showcase. So we'll just run over the map layouts very quickly. They are very straightforward. If you've run the maps before, this probably won't be much use to you. But I'll just go and show you the layouts for Messer and Dunes. So Messer is always exactly the same in terms of what we care about, and that is where the boss is. When you spawn, for some reason, you'll always face directly towards the portal. You just run away from the portal and you'll come to a little gap in the terrain that goes up. You run up here and then you'll run into a big mound here. This mound, the boss door will be somewhere around the outside of the mound. Now we can see already from when I've spawned in where it is, but it can be anywhere on this wall here. So then you just go in, you'll kill the boss, you'll take your lovely loot, you'll portal out, and that's it. And Messer is always exactly the same. Now, for Dunes, it has 2 different layouts. So we'll just pull 2 maps out so we can run them. And they're very simple. You'll either spawn at the top of the map or the bottom of the map, and you are just running in the opposite corner to get to where you need to go. So here we spawned at the bottom of the map, the bottom right, and we're just going to run up. And the boss is going to be in the top right area of the map. So for this one, you're just going to hug this wall. Then the train will go to the right. There'll be a pack of mobs to the left, and then the boss here. And then the second layout, you're going to spawn on the top left, and then you run down. And they're the only 2 layouts that you're going to get. The down one is a little bit more tricky because the boss can be in a slightly different location. But you essentially just go down until you can't go down anymore. And then you're going to take a right, which is going to be here. Again, it's going to be a pack of mobs, and then the boss. And that is as simple as it is. 2 different layouts for Dunes, 1 for Messer. Once you've done a few Dunes maps, it's super easy to know what layout you've got. And the idea is get through those maps as quickly as you can, because the quicker you do it, the more profit you're going to get. So to give you an idea and the overview of the loot, I've just done 3 invitation runs, which the speed of my character, it takes about 50 minutes to do 3 complete invitations. But let's just round it up to an hour because your character might be slightly slower. This is including stashing loot, getting your maps out, stashing the new maps, and just sorting the inventory out really quickly. So if we have a look at what we actually had back, we oversustained our Messer maps by 20, and that's pretty normal. I'd actually expect a few more maps to drop. We were slightly on the unlucky side. And then if we go down to the loot, and this is from 1 hour, we had 2 of the expensive invitations drop. We had 7 Elder Guardian maps, 7 Shaper Guardian maps, 2 Cirrus maps, a Synthesis map. Obviously got you 3 invitations that are worth 1.2 divines each. We had a Raw Divine and a Raw Exalt, which you will get to drop because the extra modifiers that you have on the map, you are going to get decent amounts of these to drop. We had small amount of Chaos and Silver Coins. I was a bit lax in picking these up. I probably could have had about 60 of these, but I did leave some on the ground. And then 4 Awakened Sextants and just loads of stuff I've not really priced up. We'll just say all of this stuff together is sort of 0.2 divines maybe. I'm probably undervaluing it a little bit. And this is the reason I love this strategy. This loot looks like not a lot, but it's actually 8 divines worth of loot that you are going to sell very, very quickly. So the total in divines is 8 divines. It's pretty much bang on. And that was probably about 50 minutes worth of mapping. But if you've got a slightly slower character, it might be a little bit longer. So we'll bump it up to an hour. And this is kind of the average that you're going to expect. You will have times where you're getting 10 divines an hour, where you might get a big div card to drop, or you might get a couple of divines, or you might get a memory that goes for currency, or you just get lucky and you get more invitations and more maps. I've done this for, I would say, 20 to 30 hours this league, and I averaged well over 8 divines an hour, and it is just a very, very simple strategy. And that's why I love this strat, because all that happens, if I run it for 4 hours, these columns would just get extended out, and all this stuff really won't take any longer to sell. I could run this strat for 8 hours, and whatever I've got is going to take me the same amount of time to sell as if I just ran it for 1, because I'm just bulk selling all of the stuff. So what sort of character would really, really suit this kind of mapping strategy? You essentially want a character that is quick across the ground, has relatively good clear potential, and half decent single target. You don't need to excel in anything. You don't need like 10 million DPS. You just need enough DPS to get the boss down in a few seconds. Because if you end up taking 10 seconds to kill a boss, that's probably 8 seconds extra per map compared to what I'm running. So you do need a fairly set up character, but at this stage of the league, when you're running endgame content, if you're running any other kind of difficult mapping strategy, this should be a breeze. The way you can improve your speed is you can run haste as your aura instead of your damage aura. I would 100% recommend it. I would recommend trying to get onslaught or onslaught and kill into the build, or worst comes to worst, a silver flask to get that onslaught. I would also recommend, if you're near any movement speed nodes, you take them. If you can get action speed anywhere, you take that. And you obviously run a quick silver flask. You could potentially run 2. You just want to get as much movement speed, attack or cast speed as you can, so that you can get from one end of the map to the other as quickly as possible. The quicker you can do it, the more currency you go into turnover. And that's really all you need for the build. You don't need particularly good defenses. My character has no fizz mitigation, probably about 70% chance to evade, ailment immunity, and capped spell suppression. I cannot take a physical hit at all. And in about 3 hours of mapping, I died once. And that was because I had an insanely hard map with triple fizz taken as Ellie, and I had the porcupine monsters, and they absolutely obliterated me. But overall, because you're going to set your character up to move so quick, you really don't need much defenses to stay alive. And then lastly, we'll just come on to the pros and cons of the strategy. The pros for me are, firstly, there is no buying materials. You will need a base setup of around 10 maps to get you going, and then you will never run out of maps. And it self-sustains. You will always drop more maps than you're running because of the Atlas tree that we've got. It's very easy to roll your maps in bulk, and because we're not constantly going back to put sextants on and scarabs in, you can just run map after map after map. It's a very simple strategy. You just put your map in, run, kill stuff, put another one in, and rinse and repeat. It is not the most engaging gameplay, but if you have something on in the background, it's very, very easy just to almost AFK this sort of strat. And then the major plus side for me is the loot that you get is easy to sell, and you don't get a huge variety of loot. The problem with a lot of strategies is you end up with a plethora of different currencies, essences, scarabs, and you either have to go on TFT and try and bulk sell them, or you list them all on the trade site and have to do lots and lots of different trades to liquidate your currency. With this strategy, the majority of your money is going to come from invitations and maps. And these all bulk sell really easily, either on the trade site or TFT, or equally what I do is I actually run the Guardian maps and invitations myself, just as a break from the strategy, and also it is really, really good profit. But if your build's not quite capable of that, you can just sell them in bulk. So everything you get will sell in bulk very, very easily. It is minimal trading time, and you can sell most of the stuff in bulk for divines. In terms of cons, there is a few. If you have a very weak character in terms of very, very low life or low DPS, it's probably not a great strategy because you have to be able to run the maps quickly, which means you don't want to have to re-roll maps constantly to suit your character. So you want a character that maybe can run most of the mods on the map, and even if they end up getting extra life mods or the enemies get extra damage mods, it doesn't really affect the speed that you get through the map. And then the major negative, I guess, is it isn't very engaging. It is quite a boring strategy. So the way I normally do this strategy is I will do hour bursts. So I'll come on, get maybe 3 invitations worth of maps prepped, and then just run them all. Once I'm done, I'll probably log off for a bit, go and do something else. Then I might come back and do 1 to 2 hours. But it's a very, very good way to build up your currency really quickly. And that's kind of it for the strategy. If this seems like something that you would enjoy doing or don't mind doing to earn some currency, I would 100% recommend it. It's a strategy I've done for about 4 leagues now. I've just tweaked it slightly league after league. And the reason it's so good this league is purely the price of the invitations. Last league, I think a invitation for Searing Exile was about 0.4 divines. This league, they triple that at 1.2. Same with the things like Elder Slayers, the Formed. They're always decent currency, but they are trending slightly higher than they were last league, along with all the sets of maps. So everything that you drop from this strategy based on last league is just up an absolute ton in terms of profit. And that's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to leave comments and I will try and answer them as best as I can. Take care and see you in the next one.